Okay, so we're going to get going right away. Without any further ado, Brian Best.
Hey, y'all. Everybody's leaving. No, you guys are staying. I appreciate it. Come on, yeah, they'll come back. They're just getting a bio break, right? So thank you all. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. The title of this session is Making the Most of Your Opportunities. I'm doing it a little bit differently today. You notice I'm not on the stage, and I've turned off the projector because, it's late, and you guys have been lectured at all day, right? So I thought I would do this just a little differently today in this presentation. I wanted it to be more conversational, a little more laid back than what you've been having all day. So no slide deck, no stage. So the title of the program is kind of interesting, Making the Most of Your Opportunities. What? Yeah, I didn't do this title. This title was actually given to me, and I suppose that's fine. Maybe it's because I'm opportunistic. I don't know if that's a compliment, but we'll go with it. And what I'm kind of hoping for is that you all, if you're sitting in a session saying make the most of your opportunities, then you might have an opportunity in mind, or you might be thinking of something that you've been holding yourself back from, or you made a move and it's not going like you hoped, something like that. For those of you who don't know me, just my story in 1 minute flat. I started my business, Best Max, about 18 years ago. 18 years ago. And started out just as a hired gun. Did about 4 years with a retail shop and a service repair shop, and that was terrible. Pivoted from that into a business-to-business managed services model, and we're still doing that today. As part of going to managed services, I had to get some software. Back in 2010, I wasn't real thrilled with the software packages that were available for remote maintenance and monitoring, so I wrote my own. And about 4 years after making that, people were like, hey, what are you using? I told them what I'm using. They're like, take my money. So I started another business around that. Again, making the most of opportunities, right? So took that, made it its own business, Mac MSP, created a couple products out of it, Gruntwork, Blue Sky. Well, after 18 months, that business was doubling every 3 months. 18 months in, the largest IT service management platform in the world. At that point, Logic now SolarWinds MSP came calling, made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Sold them the IP, went to work for them. So still own Best Max. Best Max is more of an investment for me at this point. I'm not in the day-to-day. I check in every week or so with my team, make sure things are going right and we're growing. But other than that, my day-to-day work is with SolarWinds, making sure the Mac stuff in their products is up to par and up to parity. So that's me. So again, I wanted you to kind of think about, obviously you're attending this session for a reason, right? So I'm hoping you'll think about that, and we'll talk about what's on your mind as we get in. I'm going to use my phone and cheat a little bit because I want to make sure we stay on time. We got to get to that evening thing, right? But I do have 3 little stories that I thought about when I heard this title that I thought I'd like to share with you. And usually somebody comes in and gets into this position, they start talking in a session like this, and it's all going to be like, look how successful I am, and look at all the cool things I've done. I'm going to tell you about 3 things I really messed up. Okay? Opportunities that didn't necessarily go the way I really wanted them to go, but you make the most of them, and that's kind of what you do. So the first one actually is an example of the concept that ideas are crap. Everybody has great ideas, right? Ideas are crap. Execution is everything. So turn back the clock. If you've been in technology a while, think about the early 2000s. I was sitting in a restaurant, and I'm sure we've all done this. You ever been in restaurant jail? You know what I'm talking about, restaurant jail? You've eaten your dinner. You're sitting there. You're waiting for them to bring the check. You're all talked out. I finished eating. Bring me the stinking check. And I'm thinking to myself, they really ought to have like a call button. Hey, waiter, come here. Where's a button on the table? Come here. Just come here. Bring me a new drink. Bring me something. And I thought, would it be great? And this was pre-tablet, right? So I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if I had like a MacBook on every one of these tables? And I could just use that to tell them what I want in my order, and I could pay for it right then and there, and it'd be fantastic. This would be great. So I wrote up this whole spec sheet and whole thing, and ultimately it came down to the fact that it's just like, God, this is going to be really expensive to get off the ground with Mac gear. Could I do it with Windows gear? Yeah, but I hate Windows, so I'm not going to do that. All right, could I do it with something else? Sure, I could, but I let it sit. You guys ever been to, like a Chili's or an Applebee's or any of those other restaurants where you have recommended pieces of flair these days, and you notice what they have on the stinking table? They've got my idea on the table. They've got the little tablet, and it's got the little receipt printer, and you can pay right there, and you can play games. You can do. Now, the interesting thing is here, even before those really started to be a big thing that you see very commonplace now, just 4 or 5 years ago, I was telling a friend about this idea. I'm saying, you know what? I should have executed on this the instant I heard about iPad. The very first iPad came out, I should have jumped on this, because there it is, right there. Tablet solution, real simple, should have jumped on it. He said, you know what? No, don't do tablets. Nobody wants to touch those. Would you really leave an iPad at a table and touch it? Disgusting, right? So he's like, well, let's do it as an app. And that way you bring your own device. You're bringing your own device to the restaurant anyway. So do it as an app and do it that way. And we can do it. And so we did. We went bonkers on this. We were figuring out how to monetize this and how to market it. We actually went into a restaurant in the town, one of the towns in the Kansas City area, Lawrence, Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. And we went in there, we met with the manager, and we said, hey, listen, could we do a pilot of this with you? And we did. We ran a pilot with this. We gave the waitress or the host a cell phone, and we said, hey, we're going to text you. You ignore us. We're going to text you when we want something, right? And we did this. So the lesson here is, now here it is 5 years later, right? And I'm still not a billionaire from selling this app all over the place, right? So making the most of your opportunities. Well, the lesson here is twofold. Again, like I said at the beginning, ideas are garbage. Execution is everything. So I had this great idea, and now my idea is being capitalized on by lots of other people because they had the idea too, right? So the other part to that is we put in some legwork, we did a lot of research, we felt like this was good. All we really had to do at that point was execute funding. So why didn't I do it? The answer is because I got caught up in another opportunity. The whole Mac MSP thing started to happen right about that same time. And I just said, you know what? This is a little more in my wheelhouse. This is kind of a safer bet. I'm already using this software. I know its ins and outs. I think we can sell this and make this happen. So that's the other lesson you kind of take away from this story, right? You can choose your battles. Maybe you could take them on both at the same time, but I feel like you got to focus. You got to lock onto an opportunity. You got to give it a sufficient amount of time. In my mind, 3 years. I mean, if you're going to really commit to something, lock in on it and give it enough time to flourish. Because if you get into it at the beginning, it's going to stink. Mac MSP, guys, when I started that in 2014, this software, I'm like, there's nothing like this out there. I've been using it successfully to drive my managed services business. My colleagues are going to love this. They've been talking about, they're using Jamf, but Jamf is like enterprise, and they're trying to shoehorn it into SMB, and there's no other real tools. They're using Windows tools. They're using Kaseya and some other stuff. This is going to go like gangbusters. I put it on the market. Didn't close a sale for a month and a half. You know how excruciating that month and a half was? I'm like, oh my God, I made the biggest mistake ever. Nobody's going to buy this. I'm going to look like an idiot. All right. So you got to commit to time. You got to give it time to work. So really lock in, and be fluid. Do whatever you got to do to make that thing a success. Once you know you're going to do it, take that opportunity, make the most of it. See what I'm doing there with the title? I like this title. I didn't make it up. All right. Second story that I wanted to share with y'all was about, sorry, just make sure I stay on time. We all want to go to dinner, right? Was about 4 years before I started Mac MSP. So like I said, I ran Mac MSP. I ran the Gruntwork software. We didn't call it that then. But I ran that in-house at Bestmax for years before we started selling it. And when I started writing it, I thought, hey, this might help out other people too. Maybe I should package this up and sell it as a service. I thought about that. Ironically, right about the same time, Alan Hancock was thinking about watchman monitoring. Right about the same time. And my initial package had monitoring in it. because I didn't know about Watchman at that point. And I'm like, okay, hey, I got to have a monitoring package. And I ran this thing, and I'm like, yeah, this is gangbusters. This is really good. I think we can make something here, and lots of people would benefit from it. There's an opportunity, right? Then one day, I botched it. I botched the code. Like, I pushed out an update, and no computers were checking in anymore. They all stopped checking in. And I had to go to one manually and figure out, why isn't this computer checking in with me anymore? And I made a total flub. I made a mistake in the code, and it broke the whole thing. And I panicked. I thought, okay, so now me and my guys, we got to go around and touch all 4 or 5, I think it was like 600 at that point, computers that we were supporting. We had to reinstall this everywhere. Fire up the VPNs, fire up ARD, shoot this thing out, and get it everywhere. Track down that laptop user that we haven't seen in like a year, and we can never pin them down for an appointment, track them down, and get this thing reinstalled. Ugh, what a nightmare. You know, it scared me. I'm like, could you imagine taking something like that, a situation like that, and now instead of saying, okay, I just got to go run and reinstall this, saying to your customer, hey, Mr. Customer, I made a mistake, and now you have some work to do. Freaked me out. I was spooked. I was like, oh man, there is no way I can do this right now. No way. And I literally sat on it for 4 years. Even at the 4-year mark, I still didn't want to do it. I was like, no way. I got talked into it. I got talked into it by a bunch of people who were like, hey, what's it do? And I tell them what it does. And they're like, come on, dude. You got to share the wealth here. I'm like, all right, fine. I'm going to twist my arm. Thank you, guys. Thank you to people who twisted my arm. Got me over the fear. It's going to be scary. It is. You're going to screw up, right? You're going to take an opportunity. You're going to do your best to go at it, and you're going to mess up. It's just going to happen. It's all about how you respond to it. All right. It's all about being nimble, being prepared for that to happen, not being devastated by it, not letting it affect you emotionally or letting you freeze up, and just doing your best to respond to it. You know, when I finally did release MacMSP, and a month and a half later, I finally got my first couple of subscribers, right? One of the first 2 subscribers for Gruntwork had a whole bunch of problems. It was like every day he was sending me a bug report. And it was stuff that I hadn't seen in 4 years of running this code at my own business. And I'm like, what is going on here? And finally one day he just he gets me on the phone, sends me a message, I want to talk. We get on the phone, and he's like, Brian, are you full of crap? I mean, did you really run this for 4 years? This thing does not work. I'm like, yeah. You know, can you imagine what a gut punch that was, right? You run this thing, you didn't release it 4 years ago because you're scared to release it because of a mistake that happened. You finally put yourself out there, put it out there, ask people to pay you to do this software and manage this thing as a service. And it takes you a month and a half to get your first couple customers, and one of them says this is absolute garbage. Freaky, right? All right, so my only response to him was just real simple. It's like, hey, you are running stuff that I don't run, and you're exposing this to things I have never seen before. I will collect bug reports, and I will do my best to make it a good product for you. That's really all I can promise, and I hope that's enough. It was enough. He's still a customer today. So that's good. You know, he still texts me and says, hey, stuff is broken from time to time, and relishes it. But in any case, that's a whole nother deal, right? So again, it's going to be freaky. You are going to take hits, right? But making the most of your opportunities is dealing with that and rolling with the punches. You're just going to have to. Just know it's coming. All right. The third and last one that I thought I'd share with you from my own history was a neat opportunity where, again, 18 months into running MacMSP, I get a phone call, and it's the CEO of Logic Now. And you know, if you don't know Logic Now, and you wouldn't, it's a primarily Windows company. They change names like 100 times. Calls me up and says, hey, look, we're a Windows IT service management platform for Windows. We have a Mac agent. It sucks. We know it sucks. We heard yours is pretty good. What do you think about selling it to us and coming and working for us? I'm like, I don't know. I've only been at this 18 months. I mean, it's been growing like a weed, doubling every 3 months. I should just probably stick with it. Back up the truck, beep, beep, beep. Okay, fine. Yes, all right, yes, we'll do this. And yeah, that was fantastic. You know, got a financial reset, got exposed to this whole new situation. I mean, I never really deeply explored a Windows-centric product that does remote management the way that I wanted remote management done. So it was an opportunity to get in there. It was an opportunity to look at an entire career field. Guys, I'd never been a developer. I'd been self-employed for 18 years as an IT guy. First as a hired gun, then as a shop owner, and then just as a B2B consultant, right? I'd never done software code. They're like, you're going to be a product manager. I'm like, what's a product manager do? I didn't know, right? But I'm like, all right, well, let's just try this. We got to try this and see how it goes. So it represented two things. It was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to take my current business that I've loved and grown, and I have 5 employees, and it's just going to have to fly without me. We're going to have to see how that does. So that was one thing. And then I'm going to go into this whole new world I've never explored before. It was really exciting. It was really frustrating for a lot of reasons. But here's where it got really off the rails. About 6 months in, I'm finally kind of getting my groove a little bit. I got a developer I work with. I got marketing teams. I'm training up sales and support and doing all this stuff. Got my hands in every little pie because none of them were Mac capable at all. They're much better, light years better than they were 2 years ago. Then Logic Now got bought. So the company that I sold my stuff to 6 months later is bought by a bigger company. Now this was really defeating because Logic Now came to me and I'm like, you guys remember Retrospect, right? I mean, Retrospect's still out there, but do you remember Retrospect in the mid 2000s? Like Retrospect back in Mac OS 9 and Mac OS 8, that was it. You wanted backup, it was Retrospect, period, paragraph, right? And then Mac OS 10 comes out, and they got bought by this company. They got bought by that company. They got bought by that company. And they're like, anybody use Retrospect anymore? I don't know. What do you got? I learned rsync. That was my answer. I'm like, I'm just going to do rsync. Other people came up with other sync solutions. Crash Plan eventually took top of mind share in the Mac community for backup, which they may have botched. But in any case, that's neither here nor there. I got retrospected. Because basically I said, look, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, I don't want to get into a retrospect situation. The CEO was like, no, we believe in the product. We believe that Mac is going to be a holistic part of our offering. We know that Mac revenues aren't going to be huge for us. And it's true. The amount of Mac agents that we install across our entire client base, they get more installs of the beta of the Windows agent on the first day than we do all of our Mac agents. So from a pure revenue play, I mean, it's just no. I mean, it can't be thought of like that. And they got it when I made sure they got that before I jumped in with these guys, did my homework, went to one of their conferences. They're doing their roadmap. They got 200, 300 people in the audience, and they're talking about their roadmap. Hey, we're going to have this feature by Q1. Yay. We're going to have this feature by Q2. Yay. We're going to have Mac remote control in Q1. Woo! The audience goes nuts. I'm like, are you kidding me? These guys really want Mac remote control that bad? And they can do another couple features, clap, clap, clap. We're going to have patch for Mac by Q4. Woo! The audience goes nuts, even more nuts this time. I'm like, are you kidding me? Really? So yeah, I figured they get it. Then 6 months later, a bigger company comes and buys this company. 2 months after that, the CEO who I negotiated with is gone. The VP, who was above me in the chain, right underneath the CEO, he's gone. The director, who was my immediate superior, he's gone. Basically, everybody except for one guy who was involved in the acquisition of Mac MSP is no longer with the organization. I'm still sitting there. So Mac went from this big priority in the organization to a nothing burger in this thing. So how is this making the most of your opportunity? Remember what I said about locking in? I'm going to give it 3 years. I started Mac MSP in 2014. 3 years. So SolarWinds thing happened in the middle of 2016. And that's when it was kind of like, and I had an employee who had been with me 4 years. He came with me on this deal. He was kind of like the ops guy, doing a lot of Mac stuff. SolarWinds comes in and said, we don't need 2 Mac guys, get rid of him. So they laid him off like they laid off HR people and accountants and duplication of staff. So I was hot. I'm like, you guys just don't get it. You don't understand. They weren't given any resources. They just didn't prioritize it. Like, what's the big deal? Why do we even care about this? And the only reason I didn't get the axe is because we were profitable. I mean, you look at Mac by itself versus its cost, we were making a profit. So why would you axe a profit center, right? But I'm just like, I gotta stay with this. I don't want to I could have bailed out of it. I would have involved probably firing some of my guys, going back to Best Max, retreating. But I'm like, I got to stick with this. I got to fight it from the inside. It's weird. It's a very weird experience to be purchased, to be hired by acquisition, get all sorts of, yeah, we can't wait to do this. We're really excited to have you on board. And then 6 months later, who are you? Why are you even here? You got no support from any of the higher ups. Anybody who was involved is gone. So it's kind of I'm here, you paid a lot of money for me, now let me sell you on this concept. So the past year of my existence has literally been, Mr. VP, we need resources. Here's why. Here's the business case. Here's why you want to do this. Here's why, no, Mac revenues aren't going to be great, but they're going to be boosters for everything else. You just got to give me some dev time. It's going to be great, da-da-da. Finally happened this year in the summertime, finally got what we needed. A lot of customer feedback, which was fantastic, helped push that forward, but finally got there. So my point to this story isn't just to tell you my life story, nobody cares. It's to tell you, look, you're going to take an opportunity and things are going to go way south. Hopefully your opportunity, you take it, you execute on it, it goes exactly as you envisioned, you're wildly successful, and everything's fantastic. And I hope that for you. I hope that works. But don't be surprised if something comes completely out of left field and knocks that out. And then your question is, what are you going to do about it? Okay. I'm not going to lie. A year in, I was hot. I was ready to look for other opportunities earlier this year. And then they finally, towards like the 0 hour, they said, okay, we're going to give you what you've been asking for a year. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can't leave you now after you're telling me this. But you got to just be steadfast enough to say, okay, maybe I'm just glutton for punishment. Maybe you would have bailed a lot sooner, right? But I said, I'm committed to this. I'm focused on this. I've also got a lot of people depending on me. In fact, one or two in this room that use this thing, and I'm going to leave them hanging out to dry if I get rid of it. If I walk, this thing is dead in the water, and they use this product. So, there was a part of responsibility there. But again, my point, making your most out of your opportunity isn't always just, awesome sauce. Sometimes it really sucks. Right? And it's just a matter of slogging through and doing the best you can until you get what you're after. Make sense? All right, I'm done blabbing about me. What I'd like to do is talk with you guys about, why are you sitting in this room? So surely you came into a make the most of your opportunity session and you had something in mind, right? Are you guys facing an opportunity you're thinking about? I see smiles. I see people thinking about it. No? No opportunities at your job? You just kind of, I'm just kind of doing day to day, no nothing? We can just go on break.
So I'll share one that I did.
Please. Thank you for saving me, Richard. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I had a client who we pitched an idea to develop some software.
Okay.
It was a printing company. It's like, all right, fine. They wanted to manage materials for a company. And they were like, too expensive. Me and this other guy went off to the side. Okay, fine, we'll fund it privately. Did that for about a year or 2 years. Client calls me back and says, okay, we're ready to go now.
Nice.
As to go, oh, that product we talked about? Yeah, we need to talk because we were privately developing, getting it up and running. So we've had a client on board with them for about a year and a half now. And that client now went to another company and said, oh, if you want to do business with me, you have to use the software.
Nice.
So now we're picking up 2 clients and starting to develop it. So, but it took that risk to say, they're like, I don't know what's going to happen with this thing at the end of the day, but it was kind of like, if he has a need for it, there's a need, potentially down the road there. So it's interesting now, the customer's starting to drive that interest in other people, and it's a large enough corporation that they're like, you want to do business with me? This is how you're going to do it.
Do you believe in serendipity?
Yeah.
Because, there's been a handful of times in my life where I felt like everything just kind of came together. And this was one of those times, was that. And it sounds like you had sort of the same thing. You had this idea, you had somebody who wanted to do it. Yeah, maybe they backed out, but you were like, no, this is too good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How much cash did you have to invest to get it done?
So,
Ballpark, you don't need to tell me financials.
It probably took us about $5,000
Okay.
to get off the ground, but then as soon as the client came on board, they started funding the project, which was another thing we did.
Nice.
I even took another project, developing an internal system for a gymnastics company. And the only way I took it on is, look, I can go out and find you a piece of software, a couple $100 a month, it'll manage you. If you want your custom software, it's $80,000 or plus, and it's a budget. And literally they signed off on it. So I've literally had that project fully funded by them. And I'm not touching, I don't do anything with that if you're not giving me money to do it.
Nice.
So we'll see where that one goes. Then we're going to go into a franchise model with it, but it was me taking that opportunity along the way. And look, it brought revenue in the process. I'm not going to say no to it.
That's kind of an interesting thing. How do you guys feel about this? I'm a bootstrapper. I've never done a business with funding. I've never sought revenue. Kickstarter is one thing, but people who are like, I have this great idea and I'm going to do it. You got to give me $1 million first, and they go out and they seek funding for it. That's just such a foreign concept to me. And maybe that'll be something that I'll explore later to see if I can handle it or be good at it. But it just feels wrong in some way, because it's kind of like, like I said in the beginning, ideas don't matter. It's execution that matters. And you see these companies, there's so many Silicon Valley companies that it's a terrible idea. It's never going to be revenue positive, but they're getting millions of investor dollars because they're just good at pitching ideas, right? And it's like, this is never going to work. And that just sort of drives me nuts. I mean, so to me, Richard, to hear you say how you put in a small cash outlay out front, but then relied on revenue to do it from there. To me, that's how you got to do it. I mean, I actually have a new venture going right now that like I said, the SolarWinds thing, I wasn't sure how it was going to go at the beginning of the year. So I'm like, okay, well, 3 years is 2017. Maybe I ought to get something else lined up. So we got another venture we started. We started as a subset of BestMax. And it's going okay. Real slow out of the gate, not quite what I would like, but it's cost me nothing to start it up. I mean, a nothing burger. I mean, it's been like $1,000, maybe $2,000 to kind of get up and running. And now it's up and running, and it's making monthly revenue. It's profitable. I mean, nobody's going to get rich off of that right now, but it's a start. And like I said, these things sometimes take a while to get going. Just for my own, I mean, I know some of you in here. The rest of you guys, how many of you are running your own show right now? Whether it's your own business or a side hustle? Okay, a bunch of hands. I mean, obviously, I knew so many folks. Is it what kind of businesses are you running? For those, just shout it out. MSP. Well, yeah, I knew that.
MSP, yeah.
Yeah, MSP. Well, that's interesting. Well, tell me more about that. What do you mean?
Let's see, how should I start? I was hired as a service desk. I was stolen by a company, basically from the customer service team, because they transferred from a wiki page to Zendesk.
Okay.
So the IT department catches wind of this and stole me on their service desk to help with their ServiceNow implementation.
Okay.
So I worked for them. I did that for 2.5 years, and then everything kind of went belly up. Something, I don't know, I left. Everybody's now fired, so I don't know.
Mm.
The whole IT department is a new department, so I don't know if it's something.
You got off board just in time.
So I left.
Yeah.
And I went to work for another company and built their ticketing system on web help desk.
Okay.
And so I've been doing that for the last 2 years, and then just got stolen again by a subsidiary of that company, Sports Warehouse, to build their shopping links and their Amazon links. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, everybody's kind of caught wind that I basically find a tool and implement it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Sorry to hear that.
motorcycle shop.
Okay.
And they needed a network administrator, someone to redo the cameras, someone to reset the security system, someone to implement a ticketing system, redo their QuickBooks, everything. Full IT admin ground up. They didn't know what they were doing. So I'm doing that. So that's like another side hustle. So now I
Yeah.
have all these small businesses that are like, come in and do my ticketing system, come in and implement my this and that, whatever. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
So there's like 3 or 4 things going on at the same time. I'm gonna have to quit one or the other.
Yeah.
And so it's just been a little bit.
You think you're gonna quit the day job?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to quit the day. Eventually, maybe next year sometime.
Nice.
Yeah, but I guess it's that transition from being an employee to an entrepreneur.
Oh yeah.
And it's also the mentality, the bootstrap mentality. My reputation sort of preceded me because I don't like wasting time, and I don't like wasting other people's time.
You'll be a good entrepreneur.
And so that's kind of
Yeah.
where it came from. And in the IT world, I'm sort of phasing myself out from being an employee because they want to stay employed by doing everything tomorrow. Not
Yeah.
necessarily like all like the team that I'm on right now, the IT team that I left after I implemented their ticketing system, like they're amazing. I love them. We had only 5 of us for a company of international company with like more than 3,000 employees because we had really good people that were really efficient. But that isn't and hasn't been my experience.
No, and I'm right there with you. That was probably
I
my
don't know if I can go back.
that was probably my biggest culture shock from being a self-employed person for almost 2 decades and then joining a big corp.
It's very
Whoa.
they move a lot slower.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, guys, let's go, gung ho, woohoo, let's do this. Brian, stop.
Yep.
I'm like, what? Stop? What are you kidding me? Really? Don't you get anything done? No, just stop. It's such a slow pace. And it's interesting to me. At one point in time, my immediate superior, my boss, the director of product management, pulled me aside and he's like, look, you're not the CEO anymore. I'm like, whew, wow. Wow, dude. That was a big wake-up call that this is all we're really going to do here is just alienate people who don't want to go at that pace, right? And it was a hard nut to kind of get my brain around because I'm wired in that entrepreneur mentality of let's go, let's get it done. There's no reason to be sitting on this. I've made the decision, let's go. And no, you don't get to make the decision. You got to run that past this VP and that VP and this director and that person, and marketing wants a say and legal wants a say, and it's all this stuff. And then you get just the really kind of what I consider unemployable person who has that job who just doesn't want to do their job, and you got to wait for them to finally bail out, or you got to hound them all the time. Yeah, it's really frustrating. I get that. So there is a certain liberation. For those of you who raise your hand, started in a business, did you all start that way? Because that's how I started. The Best Max was a side hustle when I started it. You got laid off. Oh, that'll do. You got forced into it. Yeah. Same deal. Well.
My story's interesting.
Yeah, hit me.
I worked for a time and materials Mac company back in the day, and they were experiencing hardship, and I wasn't getting paid, so I went in at noon to quit, and I did. But in the meantime, right after I quit, I called the company, the 2 customers that I was supposed to be at later that day. And I said, it no longer works, I'm not coming, but I'm just letting you know why I'm not coming. They're not paying me, so they said, come on out anyway, we'll just, we'll work something out. So I walked into the place that day, and I walked out of there that afternoon with a check for $5,000 to start my own business.
Nice.
And they are now 4 different companies, and all but one of them are still customers.
Was there any concern about a non-compete or anything like that?
I did get sued, but he was dumb enough to sue me at my post office box, so I never actually had to appear in court because the summons was never delivered.
Sorry. I didn't want to laugh into the mic. Instead, I do that. That's awesome. Okay. Wow.
We did meet in court, and we both, he lost, but he didn't have any funds to pay.
Okay.
Countersued, and
Oh, wow.
they didn't find anything against me.
What was the countersuit? What was the countersuit complaint?
Stealing his customers.
But wait, that was his suit against you was stealing that.
Yeah, I was taking his customers,
Right.
but he wasn't
Oh, I got you. Back lost wages. Got it. Okay. Oops. Yeah, I'd say that was justified. So, yeah, that's the side hustle thing. That's pure opportunity, and that's a really hot thing. Any of you guys follow Gary Vaynerchuk online? Gary V. Pull up that Twitter. You pull up his Twitter and watch some of his videos. That is like, you're gonna love that. Dude just went to K-Swiss and said, hey, would you guys make a sneaker line for me? And they launched it, and it was actually worse than iPhone launches. He crashed K-Swiss's website with people trying to get his shoes. But it's all that same kind of mentality of, do you want it bad enough? There's a certain amount of this that's a little bit overwhelming. I kind of watch it and I'm like, oh God, guys, come on. I have a family. I'm going to balance my life a little bit. I'm not going to work 24/7. I feel like you can do that. And there was a time where I did, 80 hours a week. Yeah, no problem, loving it. But that eats you up pretty quick. You got to find time to recharge. For me, it was my kids. I have to spend time with them. Not have to because I have to. It's have to because I want to. I don't want them to grow up and I'm busy slaving away at my job, right? So you can find that balance. It's just a matter of finding what matters to you. I mean, what really matters to you, right? My takeaway from your story was that, you're working with a lot of folks who are just kind of, and I mean, that resonates with me because I've had that experience too. And so, what matters to you and the reason you would choose the side hustle over the day job is because, now you're able to finally go. I mean, the reins are off, you're going, right? So that matters. That's where you'll focus your energy. That's where you'll put your energy. So, what you would want to do, what each of you would probably want to do when you get out of here or when you get back, obviously you're drinking from a fire hose at an event like MacTech, right? You're probably going to have just tons of ideas you want to execute. My thing would be for you, just think about it, or you do some self-evaluation, do some self-scouting. What really matters? What really matters in your day? It's cliche to say if this was your last day, how would you spend it? Because you go to a beach, you wouldn't be working, right? But you got to kind of say, all right, well, if this was my last couple months, am I happy? I mean, we've all heard the Steve Jobs looking in the mirror story, right? Every day he looks in the mirror, and if he doesn't want to do what he was going to do, I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact quote, but he looks in the mirror every day. Am I doing what I want to do today? If the answer is no too many days in a row, it's time to change something. And that's kind of the same thing. If you're doing your job and you love your job, guys, obviously we're talking about side hustles. We're talking about entrepreneurship. Most of you raised your hands saying you're there. For you guys that didn't, there were a few of you that didn't raise the hands. If you love your job, who cares? You don't need to be your own boss. I can make a ton of arguments for not being your own boss because believe me, one word, taxes. Okay? It's HR, legal, marketing. One of my employees was actually, who I heard about a year and a half ago, was self-employed for like 3 years. And then he worked for the University of Kansas for a couple of years. And then we were trying to hire him. And I was like, what's to stop you from just starting a new job? Because as an entrepreneur, I'm in my whole Solar Winds experience, I was thinking, gosh, what's my next thing? I'm not going to be an employee forever. What's my next thing? Because I love running a business. I like that challenge. I like starting it. That's important to me. So I asked him, what's to stop you from just working for me for a little while, kind of picking my brain and learning the knowledge that we have, our intellectual property, and then just going off and doing your own thing again? His answer, I hate marketing. I just want to fix computers, man. I do not want to do marketing. I don't want to do sales. I just want to go in and fix computers and get paid for it. I just want to screw around on computers all day and make money on it. All right, hired. If that's working for you, don't let a Gary V or a Brian Best or anybody else in here say, hey, look, you got to start your own business if you want to be successful. That's not how it works. You are successful if you are happy with what you're doing and it's working for you. That's it. All right? And maybe that's your opportunity. Your opportunity is just to keep that going as long as you can by helping that company you're working for be successful, so they don't fold and you don't lose your job and you don't get forced into a new opportunity. Okay? How we doing on time? We're a little early. I was winging this, can you tell? Yeah, you know, again, I didn't want it to be I didn't feel like this was going to be a slide deck. I actually did one of these last year, and it was a business topic, and it was a relatively small group. And I did a deck, and the deck was almost worthless because we just got into more real conversation at the end, and that's where it got interesting. So I said, if I'm going to do that this year, I'm just going to do whole conversation. We're going to see how it goes. Okay. Yes, sir.
Well, the reason why I sat in here is, one, I remember last year.
Okay.
And I also remember the turmoil that I could see in you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That obvious, huh?
It was.
Yeah, it wasn't fun last year.
And I see you the kind of guy who'd rather be in the speedboat than the ocean liner, where you can make that turn when you want to, as fast as you want to. Where I'm in a situation where I'm in the ocean liner has the same size of rudder as a speedboat. In other words, it's going to take forever to make that turn.
Yeah.
How should I say, not weigh in the patience as to you're wasting your time?
That's a really great question. Because, yeah, I've spent the last year of my life trying to turn the ocean liner.
Yeah.
The beauty part is, right about the time I was about ready to say F it and go to, I have a year. I could quit this job, but then I got to wait a year before I could do anything that would compete with it.
Yeah.
So I had other opportunities, but I was going to have to sit on them for a year. So I was trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do for that year? And while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do for that year, I got what I wanted. The boat turned. And it was just a combination of things. It was just constantly working at it. I mean, part of it is that I believe in the product. I believe that we can build a great product. I can believe that there is a need for it. I believe we can do it better than we are already. I think there's certain aspects of what we are doing that are already better than what everybody else is doing. I think we can improve on those and take aspects where we're not doing so great and make them better. Despite all the faults of the company, and there are a lot of warts, I think we can still improve. I think we can still deliver on a good customer experience. I think we are the most well-positioned of any of the companies. You look at SolarWinds versus, say, Kaseya or LabTech, ConnectWise. I think we're positioned really strongly. I think their IP portfolio is fantastic. So there's a lot of strengths there. So part of the patience, and patience is not a strong suit for me. So I don't think it was patience. It was just more belief that two things. One, I feel like we can do this. I feel like this company's got the resources to make this happen. If I can just get to the right person, get the right person to believe in it, and just take a shot. If I can just convince them to take a shot and give me what I need here, and we can get rolling on it. Okay, that took a year. The other part of it obviously was enlisting some help. I had a lot of customers, including a lot of former customers of Mac MSP who are now SolarWinds customers. My customers who came with me in this acquisition, a lot of them throwing darts, throwing lasers. And I happened to get a handful of those lasers into the right person's hands who shot them up the ladder right up to the general manager of the organization. And all of a sudden, the VP of development wants a meeting, and the VP of product wants a meeting. And wow, our customers are really unhappy with us. Yeah, they are. So that was part of it. The other part was I didn't want to let down this community. I felt an obligation to the Mac community, especially, maybe not so much in enterprise where, Jamf is the big dog, or in certain environments where my software really wasn't applicable, but especially to like a lot of ACNs who are making a move from a break fix or a time and materials model to an MSP model, and they needed the tools, kind of like I needed the tools, and a lot of them told me flat out, hey, this is exactly what I was looking for. I quit, that goes away. So part of it was obligation. And the other part of the obligation was financially, I traded a revenue stream for a W-2. So yeah, I had a nice financial reset, but the revenue stream was gone and the W-2 income. So if the W-2 income goes away, Well, I got to get a revenue stream. That savings isn't going to last forever, so I'm going to have to get another revenue stream. Where am I going to get it? I'm going to fire a couple of my guys from BestMax and take their paychecks. And I didn't want to do that to them, just because I was a malcontent, right? So, no, so that was not going to happen. It was just going to be a matter of slog it out and hope it works out. And if it doesn't, then we'll figure it out. But I was starting to come up with like a plan B, another bootstrapped service that I could run through BestMax that wasn't a violation of a conflict of interest. See how that goes. If that went like gangbusters, well, there you go. There's my out. The company's making enough revenue that I'm not going to worry about it. There are competitors now. Obviously, some of them are in the hall. So, I'm not feeling like, gruntwork people don't have a place to go. I don't want to send them there, but ultimately, if I've got to save myself, they're not going to be left completely hanging out to dry. Okay. So, that's a long-winded answer, and I don't know if there's lessons from that are applicable to anybody who wants to turn the ocean liner, but that was my answer to it. I felt obligated to people, and I felt like I could still get it done.
During that process, did you feel like the guy on the Titanic yelling iceberg?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Instead of just waiting for the
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Part of what I was saying to those guys on a regular basis is like, look, we had a competitive advantage. We were the only player in town. We were the only ones doing what we were doing. We had a unique advantage. That advantage is gone. That's what took the hit on this year of nothing happening, because that advantage is there's other people doing everything we were doing. There's a company out in that hallway that is executing the playbook exactly as how I would have executed it if I were still running Mac MSP. They were lockstep. Everything they did, I'm like, oh, I totally would have done that. And that was infuriating too. Fortunately they're nice guys, so I'm not, but at the same time, it was frustrating to see that happening. So, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you should also say to yourself, you know what? If I did this right, I would have been right.
What's that?
I would have been right watching what they're doing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. You can watch what they're doing and saying, yeah, this is the success they're having. Part of it is a little bit of jealousy. I don't want to play the jealousy card, right? That doesn't help at all. No. You can be jealous. Oh, God, look how they're so successful, and I'm doing so terrible because I sold this thing. Can't do that. You look at people, everybody you meet, there's always somebody who's doing better than you, and there's always somebody who's doing worse than you. Always. So don't get too high or too low on yourself, because there's always somebody in a worse position and always somebody in a way better position. And if you think hard about it, you don't have to think too hard to figure that, come up with examples of both, right?
Because that's always, if there's a gap, someone will find an opportunity to fill that gap.
Right.
And so the skill is in saying, oh, okay, well, right now I chose to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And I was intelligent and creative and entrepreneurial enough to see those gaps.
Right.
I'm grateful that other people are filling those gaps, but
Right.
I know and understand that I'm creative enough that next time when I'm in the opportunity to jump on those gaps, I will.
That's right. Yeah, just look for a gap. You've got, it's also a matter of bandwidth. I don't have nearly as much bandwidth now today as I had, 20 years ago or 15 years ago in my life. But, you might be in a situation where you have a day job, you started one side hustle, it's starting to go, you might be able to do another one. It's addictive to see a need and try to fill the need. It really is an addictive thing. Just like, okay, hey, how can I make things better here? How can I improve people's lives there? My favorite quote by Zig Ziglar is, you can get everything in life that you want if you help enough people get what they want. So that's it. Just help people achieve their goals, achieve their dreams, and it'll come back to you. So however you want to do that. I look at, computer service, you're like, I just mess around with computers all day. No, you don't. You make their business happen. I drive around Kansas City, I see billboards made by one of my creative clients, one of my agency clients. I helped make that billboard. That billboard would not have gotten produced if we didn't have our backup systems in play and our maintenance systems in play. I helped make that. You know, that's huge, and you can feel the same way with your businesses, absolutely. You know, you have an effect on their well-being, on the people you help. How are we doing? Anybody else want to talk about anything? Going once, going twice? We're going to wrap 5 minutes early. Let's get a little break before dinner.
I had a question about people that are self-employed in consulting.
Okay.
Like, do you really find that you need to market? Is that really, do you? Because it's, where I live, it's word of mouth, and it's reputation, so you have to kind of build that before you just go start a side hustle, because if people don't know you, if you're not a local, good luck to you.
I have an answer to this, but I want to see what others in the room think, because there's other people in here. Please, Will.
I think eventually the word of mouth peters out and you're going to become stagnant. There's only so many people that your people can introduce you to, or that are willing to speak up for you. Because there's one thing to say I recommend you to a couple of their close friends, but if you don't perform for them and they look bad by recommending you, or maybe the project fails and the other company recommended you, you need a source of new customers and people unknown to you. Because one pool of people to pull from is great for a while and it will drive you for a while. But that will run out and you will become stagnant and you have to forever look for additional clients. My own instance was I landed a whopper of a deal, absolutely ridiculous money, and that took my focus. I hired 14 people to manage that one job, and when that job died, I knew coming up to the job was going to end, and I spent weeks and weeks searching for new customers, and I could never fill the gap because I wasn't searching hard enough and advertising hard enough to fill what eventually went away and forced me to fire literally 6 people in one day.
Now, you know, he's absolutely right. There is, now you might be talking, you know, word of mouth is going to help, especially at the beginning. And like you said, it can fuel you for a while, but he's right, it is going to burn out at some point. You can goose it a little bit by encouraging referrals or asking for the referrals. Not just asking, hey, do you know somebody? Saying, hey, can you introduce me to somebody? So you can make that work, but it can't be the only thing. So, I mean, it's a good place to start. At your stage, it's definitely the place to start because you're going to get a lot of business. I mean, there's nothing better. There was a client I closed. It was like a 5-minute close. I came in. I was ready to do this whole big pitch. I'm like, we do this and we do this and this. And the owner's like right there. He goes, be quiet. We already talked to Cindy. She says you're the best. How much? I didn't have to pitch him at all. They just want to know the price because one of my other clients had recommended me very highly and they were tight. So that absolutely is going to get you new business. But Will's right. It will dry up to some degree. I mean, if you can get it to where...
It's too easy to become complacent.
Yeah, it can't be the... It's important, but it can't be the only thing.
Yeah, that's the fear. So then, like, what are the strategies? Because if, you have to be kind of a jack of all trades when you're entrepreneuring, and you're going to have to market, and you're going to have to
Yeah.
pass out cards, and you're going to have that salesy
Always be closing.
that I
Yeah.
read.
Yeah, you are going to have to do some of that, and you know it doesn't have to be all bad. I mean, what you don't want to do is you don't want to think of it as like the sleazy car salesman. Like I'm going to sell these guys, and I'm going to make a boatload of money because I'm going to soak them for every penny they're worth. Don't be that guy. Be the guy that says I'm delivering value. I deserve to be compensated for the value that I'm delivering.
Also something, look at scale. How many people are you satisfying? If it's just you, that's one scale. He went to 14 people. That's a whole different scale, and now you've got to keep an eye on that. So if you want to scale to a point somewhere near here, then you go off and say, oh, you don't want to do marketing? Fine. You need to get somebody to market, which is part of what you're doing, so that they're not doing that part.
When you find yourself
Right.
so busy that you can't pursue new customers,
Right.
Yeah, that's when employees.
that's going to be a problem for you because you go, okay, well, I need to hire another me, and that's not the person
Oh, no.
Hire not the person.
No, hire like the person who does the stuff you hate doing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't hire.
Do the billing, and if you don't like to do the documentation, hire that person.
Yep.
The other thing to do is find someone else that's bootstrapping, that they're trying to get off the ground, that they're specializing in something you need as far as a service.
That's complimentary.
If you're looking for a marketing person, go find someone that's just getting started where they're hungry too.
Yeah.
And both of you, they can work together inside of your own network to feed. I'm having that right now with one of my clients where she gave me an idea about expanding my business with. And she's like, okay, fine, but it came out of a conversation that we've been having going on for 2 months now.
Okay.
Imagine scaling your,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same
scaling your
place.
business where you have 10 jack of all trades.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't
It
try to
wouldn't
do
work.
that
Yeah.
specialist, but
It,
find
it
someone
wouldn't work
that
past
does
about
it.
3 people.
Yeah.
It just,
Yeah. And you know, a tangent to Will's story, you know, I once did one of these sessions with an hour-long speech about a nightmare client, because I've had the nightmare client where like, oh my God, this was way too big. Why did I take this on? And I totally botched it because I didn't do the due diligence at the beginning that I should have done. You know, so, you know, sometimes big deals look like, oh my God, I'm going to make so much money off of this. Be careful. Because maybe not. Really do some vetting on it. Don't just get the dollar signs.
Yeah, sometimes it's good that they say,
Go see so-and-so.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, it's hard when you're hungry. I mean, my first 3 years, I was doing everything. I was doing FileMaker databases, just whatever, man. Just feed me.
yeah, whatever.
give me a check.
Yeah, anything, right?
Enough customers that were perfect for you.
Right,
That would feed you.
right. No, that's a fun position to be in. I'm a little envious because I remember those days where that was fun. So you got some fun times ahead. Any others? Anyone else, guys? Yeah? Hey, we did it. We got to the time limit. Nice job. Thank you guys so much for spending the time with me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.